All right, so we are going to be adding some shading and textures to our characters. We want to do some traditional, realistic, smooth shading. We might want to add some hair, some scales, some bumps, some slime. And so we're going to do a little texture review before we start working on the final phase of our characters. And this is good review whether you've perfected your shading or you feel like you're pretty good at shading, or if you feel like, oh man, I hardly know how to shade. So this is a little bit for everybody. You will need Q-tips because right now you guys don't have smudge sticks, but you're getting them this week. You will need a pencil. 2B is perfectly fine. This is an HB. Just make sure you don't have like a 4H or a 6H. You want a softer lead and an eraser. And you'll want to trace something like a cup to make a circle. And we're going to put shading on this circle. So I'm going to get started. Now when we're shading, we want to decide where our lightest area is. So I'm saying my light's coming from here, meaning everything's going to move up to this light. Then I'm going to start at the bottom, building up the shadow. And I want to remember that this is round. It curves like this. So I want to go, if we curve it like that, we want to make sure we're going in a round direction. And as I go, I'm going to build up my shading. And we want to really, really blend those pencil lines. So using the side of your pencil, and I'm pushing that shading up towards that lightest area. And this is too dark. And you know, I'm going to switch pencils because I do have a softer pencil, a 2B. So I'm going to work on that. So 2B will be great. If you have a 4B, even better, but if you don't, it's okay. So I'm just going over my darkest area, working it up. See how that smudges so much better? And then I'm pushing that smudging upwards. Going in round motions, really working on getting rid of the pencil marks. And bringing it over. Then I'm going to work on darkening this side. Oops, wrong pencil. Because you want your highlight, your midtones, and your shadows. So highlights obviously being the lightest tones, midtones being those gray areas, and the shadows being your darkest. So I'm really only building up the shading in those darkest areas. You can see that shape, it's kind of like a crescent moon. And then I'm blending it. Pushing that in a round way upwards. And are the Q-tips perfect? Not perfect, but they do a good job. So hopefully you have some at home. You can always wrap cotton over your finger as well. Artists throughout time have not historically been very wealthy or have a lot of access to the best supplies, and so they have been very inventive with what they can use to make art. So we want to work in that spirit as we wait for our supplies to arrive. Resourceful. Okay. You see I'm adding a midtone behind my highlight. My highlight's right here. I want to just bring that back a little and use my finger to kind of blend. Smoothing that out, pulling that highlight again. It's a back and forth process. And then I want to bring in some shading in my midtones to darken up that transition. The key is to have it go from dark to light at the top, and then a little bit gray behind it. Okay, we're getting a little bit more dimensional. I want to keep looking and keep darkening it up. The key really is the darker you can get it, the better at the bottom, because it's going to make your highlights pop. It looks like I've transitioned my highlight over here, and I'm just going to go with it. That sometimes happens as we're working. It's because I'm right-handed, so I tend to work to the right, and I had the highlight on the left. It would be problematic if I were doing a drawing where the sun had already been established on the left, but since it hasn't, I'm just going to work with what's working for me. So I'm still smudging, smoothing it out. And then I'm going to bring my highlight again. Now the highlight should blend in. You don't want it to look like a white dot on your page. Okay. And I'm going to keep building this up, back and forth. And we use shading in all sorts of ways. What's great is if you save your dirty Q-tips, you can use them on your characters just to add that under shading where needed. Okay. And you can see my fingers are picking up some of that shading, which is fine, using your fingers. And put that highlight back in. Blending away. And you want more than one Q-tip because you're going to use the clean ones to kind of blend more. Okay. And hugging that edge, bringing in that deeper tone. Here. And if you've done this before, you're going to feel a bit rusty. I'm feeling pretty rusty on this right now. I haven't done this in like a year, which is pretty crazy. I've obviously made art, I just haven't done this kind of shading exercise in a long time, so I'm feeling a little bit rusty. And so remember to take your time, focus on it, and not beat yourself up if it's not up to your standards. It's been a while because of everything that's happened, and we want to see where our skills are at, and we want to work towards making them better. And that's why we're doing all these projects that are both creative and skill-based to get back in the practice. All right, so I've got somewhat of a dimensional sphere here. I'm going to pull out that highlight. I'm going to bring some of that in, so I want to kind of like play with the highlight a little bit. The difference a smudge stick would make. But we're going to work with what we have. So I'm really taking my time to refine. Okay. I do have a timer going for what I'm cooking, and I'm hoping it doesn't go off while I do this demo. I'm just realizing that. So we're all multitasking in our lives right now. Okay, so next, the light's now coming this way, which is fine. It changed direction. So I'm gonna put down my shadow. And first it's gonna be a double shadow. So it's going in this direction on the tabletop. Okay, putting that tabletop shadow down. And this is where we get it to look really dimensional. Get that really dark underneath. And then it's also coming this way. So I'm doing my tornado effect, dark to light. I'm going to take one of my dirtied up smudge sticks and really pull that out. Use my finger. Okay, and then I'm going to go back in and really darken right under that ball and bring that out just a little bit. Because the darker it is under, right directly under where it touches the tabletop, the more dimensional it'll look. And then you can go back and, you know, keep working on your darker parts of your sphere. Is it okay to let some pencil lines remain? Yeah, so I'm putting that in, but I kind of like the roughness right there. If it works. If it doesn't look good, blend it out. All right, and then the final thing I want, so our light hits here, and it's bouncing this way, and it gets darker as it moves away from the light, but it also bounces this way and comes around, and it hits, the sunlight hits underneath, like so. So you get a little bit of reflected light. So I've pulled that out. I wish I had a smaller eraser to get a finer line. And then go over it to blend it with my pencil. Take my dirty Q-tips. Really keep working on that refinement. Okay, so I don't want to keep you too long watching me refine. I would keep working on this. It is not perfect yet. We need more blending and working back and forth, but it gives you the basic idea of the process. And so I'll let you go with that, and I'll keep working on this. Sorry to shake the camera, I bumped into it. But this is our first little technique study that we're going to do as we remind ourselves and review how to shade with dimension and texture. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see what you produce.